if that's the case. You can't have a particle that interferes with itself. We have to unlearn all that stuff. We'll have to separate the metaphor from the facts. We have to unlearn it, and we have to become ignorant again.
Hear, hear.
And start over again. And I have a quotation from Wallace Stevens, which I think is very nice. He talks about having the ignorant eye. And you must become an ignorant man again, and see the sun again with an ignorant eye, and see it clearly in the idea of it.
I want a moment for scoring, please. Thank you. We are now going to move on to question period. We're going to have 4 questions.
Clarification.
I don't know how I possibly could have missed him. We will now have a speech not to exceed 2 minutes from the second speaker on the opposition, Mr. Evan Weber.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the speakers for the affirmative have attempted to make some points, which I hope to address in the short time I have, clearly and concisely. Before I do so, however, I want to point out and remind you all that the absurdity of the affirmative proposal does not make it any less dangerous for the fact. On the contrary, I'd like to tell you why. My opponents on the affirmative are trying to convince you, first of all, to accept a kind of Platonic vision of the world. They're suggesting that the comparison of ideas be curtailed because it is no longer necessary. Art and science are inseparable. I want to make a proposal about the nature of art and science here. Art and science are processes that furnish us with knowledge about experience, about the nature of reality. Science is literally seeing, and theater, for example, of one aspect of the arts, a theater is a seeing place. The idea of separating the two is nonsense. Ending the sharing of metaphors between art and science would be like creating a division between what is the human experience. There's an iron curtain in danger of being drawn across reality, and Jacob Zimmer and Jim Hunt are the ones who are holding the string. The speakers for the affirmative happen to be wearing suits tonight, plaids as well, glasses, and facial hair, all aspects and elements. They are speaking conservatively, but I would like to remind you of the dangerous radicality of their proposal. And, ladies and gentlemen, I will do so in the next time I speak.
A moment for scoring, please. I would encourage you all to read the categories of your scoring very closely in scoring this particular speech. Thank you very much. We are now going to move on to question period. My apologies to the opposition side for almost missing it out. We are now going to move on to question period. We're going to answer, we're going to have 4 questions. The first is going to come from our guest speaker, who is Laurent Fidel, who is here. And Laurent, your question is open to anyone at either table. Thank you, Chris.
So my question is about, imagine that you're a scientist and what you want to do is to make the next breakthrough. You want to make the next scientific revolution. Or you're an artist and you want to make the next big masterpiece. So which point of view you think will be the best to share as a scientist the metaphor with the artist in order to make a breakthrough or not, and why?
And who is the question directed to?
I thought it's a question for both, but let's say, should I direct it to?
No, it can be both. Sure. We'll take an answer first from the affirmative, if that's all right. So an answer not to exceed 1 minute once the affirmative has a microphone.
I will use my esteemed colleague's reference to the particle to claim that and state clearly that if I were to make another breakthrough, I need to shed the shackles of metaphor. I need to shed the shackles that keep me bound to an understanding of a particle as an object that cannot be split, cannot go through two slits at once. It must be my freedom from this horrible bind that will let me make my breakthrough. The next breakthrough will be the release of the binding between the worlds. It's just not helpful anymore, and I feel both as an artist,
and a
I need
Marxist.
to be released from feeling that science is the only way to explain the world, and as a scientist, I must be released. Not quite as a scientist, but were I a scientist, I would wish to be released from the binds of understanding that have locked us together. We are making a radical proposal, as our opposition members would have you believe, but it is a radical proposal for the future and for a revolution in thinking. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Answering on the same question with an answer not to exceed 1 minute is the opposition.
Notable questioner, thank you so much for that elegant question. Because you were talking about breakthroughs, you are talking about something that is unseen, something that has yet to be discovered, and you will need an illustration. You will need an artist to describe what it is that is in your mind that has yet to be defined scientifically. Without that, you will not capture the public imagination, and you will not get funding for your research. To my esteemed colleague.
Thank you. What I would like to say, what I think that I need is clarity, but it is not the ruthless clarity of the tyrant, as the it is the clarity that comes from embracing the true diversity of human experience, which is best reflected in the cross-pollination of ideas that happens between art and science through metaphor, through the bridge of language.
Thank you very much. We are now going to take one question directed towards the affirmative. Again, we have one question directed towards the affirmative. By a show of hands, please. I believe we have one question at the back. Chris? The person sitting with Laurent? If you could perhaps give everyone your name and then the question.
Hello, my name is Siobhan, and my question is, do you perhaps think that science is itself a metaphor? Seeing as metaphor is explaining things in terms of another thing, doesn't science itself explain nature, reality, gravity, etc. in terms of numbers and other concepts? So perhaps your argument's not really valid.
Thank you very much for the question. Now, with a response not to exceed 1 minute, is the affirmative side.
I will start. We are not against metaphor. Let's be clear, words are impossible without metaphor. We are against the sharing of metaphor. No longer is this sort of kindergarten sharing good thing true. It is true when you're a child, but at a certain point you need your own room. We are happy with metaphor, but we are unhappy with the sharing. Because of course, you are right. You cannot speak without metaphor, but no longer must we be tied to it between the two elements. Because yes, science might be seen as a metaphor, all art uses metaphor, and we're okay with that, as long as they are kept separate.
Thank you very much. There will now be a moment for scoring the previous 3 answers.